See him praying on my downfall. Let him pray.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the first Magic video I have made in quite a while for this channel, and it's been a very long time since part 1 of this series went up. This is 100 under 100, where I built 100 unique commander decks for under or around $100 each as a way to get people into the format without having to break the bank to get started. Yes, lots of people have done these. Yes, lots of people will continue to do so. I just figured I'd do my own spin on it. It was about a year ago that I started work on this project. All of the decks are built, everything is done. I just have to actually put the videos together and all of that. So yes, part 1 went up about 10 months ago, and I haven't done anything with it since then, so I figured I would hop back into the pilot's chair here, take you through the next 10. These will be decks 11 through 20, and we will get right into things in just a moment. But before we do, I just want to say thank you guys so much for the support over the stretch we've had this year. I know things got kind of scarce in terms of videos over the past couple of months, but we were just kind of dealing with some things. Obviously the update video is out, so that's all well and good. That went up about 2 weeks ago, just telling you guys what was going on and all of that. So without further ado, let us get into decks 11 through 20 of this series. I promise the rest of these will go up in due time, as I can manage to do so. Alright, enough of me blabbing. Let's get into this. Welcome back. Starting off with deck number 11, this is a mono-blue group hug deck of sorts with Kami of the Crescent Moon at the helm. This deck looks to draw a crap ton of cards and help everybody else do the same thing along the way. Early game, you're going to look for cards like Spellbook, which gives us no maximum hand size, Howling Mine, which as long as it's untapped will draw everybody cards, and Dictative Crewfix, which will put even more extra draws into action. Middle of the game, you're going to look to hold up your interaction with some pretty basic counter magic, Dispel, Tail's End, Counterspell, all of your standard counter magic in blue. And during the mid game also, you're going to land some of your slug pieces that punish all of your opponents for having extra cards, and sometimes even hit ourselves. Cards like Black Vice, Ebony, Owl, Netsuke, and Telepathy can definitely shake things up. Late game, you're going to look for a way out or a way to win of some kind. Laboratory Maniac is a great one, which when you draw from an empty library wins you the game instead. Maddening Cacophony, which can just mill a lot of cards. And Narset plus Windfall, which is a killer combo if you have not experienced it. I actually had that done to me yesterday as of the time of recording this. I was at game night and got Narset Windfalled and only got 1 card out of it. So you might be able to win that way if you can slow your opponents down enough. Deck number 12 is all about Chaos. This is a red-blue-black deck piloted by LUDEVIC and VIAL Smasher. It aims to play giant spells, sling around a bunch of damage, and generally make the game super crazy. Early game, you're going to aim to get out commanders and get some easy creatures in interaction, Baleful Strix to draw cards, Goblin Electromancer to discount some of those giant spells, and Gutter Snipe to start dealing some damage. Counterspell, Perplex, and Rakdos Charm can have some early game interaction if you need that to help. Middle of the game is pretty simple. You're just going to start bringing out all of your chaos pieces. Illicit Auction, Warp World, and Double Vision serve great purpose here. And the late game, if the table hasn't melted yet or nobody has spontaneously combusted, you can look for cards like Mind's Dilation, Gratuitous Violence, and Atali Primal Storm to finish things up in what will be one of the crazier games probably played that night. Deck number 13 is piloted by SHIREI, and this is a semi-unorthodox combination of colors and strategies. This is mono black going infinite turns. Yeah, it's a strange one. This single color Aristocrats deck aims to put together a combo to take infinite turns and drain the table. Early game, you can find your Accelerants, Dark Ritual, Culling the Weak, Assault Monolith, just to help you get into the game. Once we're there, we can look for your combo pieces, Magistrate's Scepter, Core Tapper, and be sure to have SHIREI on the battlefield or at least a way to get it there, whether via Command Zone or Graveyard. Late game, you can use one of a few sacrifice outlets, like Altar of Dementia or Viscera Seer because they're free, and a drain effect with Ayara, Blood Artist, or extorting every turn with Cryptghast to wrap this one up. Deck number 14 is another weird one. It's definitely an oddball episode. DAMIA, Sage of Stone, skips our draw step, but has the ability that lets us draw up to 7 on our upkeep. This Sultai deck leans heavily into ramp, discard themes, and gorgon tribal. So here we go, I guess. Early game is all about ramp. Elves of Deep Shadow, Azuzel Auspis Seeking, and Urborg Elf will help us cast our bigger threats sooner in the game. Once we're getting into the game a little bit, we can try to play the discard draw to 7 ability. With Damia, we can play into that just a little bit, using cards like Behold the Beyond, Zombie Infestation, and Null Profusion to help us empty our hand and then refill it on our upkeep to start digging through our deck. Late in the game, once we get there through enough interaction, honestly just waiting long enough if you're not dead already because people get scared when you're digging through your deck that quickly, you can get your graveyard filled way up, delve it away to use Empty the Pits at full power, wait a turn, pray for no board wipes, hopefully, and we should be good to go after that. Deck number 15 is a Jeskai spell-slinger deck piloted by SEVINNE the Chroniclasm. Similar to Kess Dissident Mage, SEVINNE loves to have spells in our graveyard, letting us copy the first one, cast from it each turn. In the early game, you can look for cards like Silent Departure, Faithless Looting, and even SEVINNE's Reclamation can be used, although that one's usually seen mid to late game with more available targets. We're just looking here to fill the bin with cheap recursive spells. The middle of the game is about a 2-step process. Step 1 is to hold open mana and react to the table, using cards like Counterspell, Dispel, and Izzet or Jeskai Charm for the more basic counter magic, or anything else that needs to be answered. In addition to interaction, Step 2, which is technically really just 1A here, is to control the board, using cards like Narset Transcendent, Time Wipe, Soulfire Grandmaster, and even Burning Oil can have that desired effect. Late in the game, go for the win. This one is pretty simple once we get there with a dual caster mage Twin Flame combo making infinite hasty tokens to swing out and crush our opponents in combat. It's really a tale as old as time. Deck number 16 is probably one of the simplest decks designed on this list for this video. This mono red deck, piloted by NEHEB the Eternal, seeks to make a ton of mana, provide some land hate, and pour it into one of several game-ending spells. Early game, the plan is simple. Don't miss land drops, and play your land hate cards like Mana Barbs and Burning Earth. Middle of the game, keep rolling, with Magus of the Wheel, NEHEB attacks, and landing Koth as a bonus for some of that mana. Late game, look for your giant haymakers like Jaya's Immolating Inferno, Comet Storm, even a double cast into Acidic Oil might just be enough to pull out a victory. Deck 17 is another pretty average deck in this episode. This Abzan deck is piloted by none other than KARADOR Ghost Chieftain. This deck aims to use graveyard recursion to keep creatures in play, gain life, and eventually win in combat. Early game, we are looking for Hermit Druid, Nyx Weaver, and Death's Oasis. These cards will help fill and take advantage of our graveyard. Middle of the game, look for cards like Karmic Guide, Splinter Fright, and Moldervine Reclamation to hold a board presence and stay in the game, just a little bit longer. Late game, look for your heavy hitters with Protean Hulk, Nethroi Apex of Death, and Debtor's Knell. These cards will often help win us games going late, especially with the amount of recursion available. Deck 18 is a fun one. This blue-black deck looks to play lots of colorless creatures, and with our commander VELA out, makes them unblockable because of Intimidate, and we can win through enough combat damage. Early game, look for cards like Baleful Strix, Cunning Evasion, and Temur Infiltrator for some off-the-bat value. Middle of the game, try to establish a board. Cards like Conduit of Ruin, Ugin the Ineffable, and Sire of Stagnation will help us play more of our colorless creatures, as well as giving us some card draw. Late in the game, just keep swinging. Cards like Lazav, Dimir Mastermind, Perplexing Chimera, and Evil Twin will serve as deterrents for our opponents trying anything crazy. We can also hold open interaction with Pact of Negation or Flusterstorm, and we can wrap up with Coastal Piracy, Whispering Madness, and a Trot of the Silencer as an alternate win condition. Deck 19 is piloted by Averna, the Chaos Bloom. This is a Temur Cascade deck with a landfall sub-theme that wins through combat and just loads of value. First off, focus on fixing colors to get Averna out early. Then, look for cards like Courser of Crufix, Beast Whisperer, and Shardless Agent to kick things off. Middle of the game, look for your other synergies. Omnath, Locus of Rage, Tatyova Benthic Druid, and Rampaging Velas work pretty well together in terms of landfall payoffs, giving us creatures, more creatures, and some card draw. Late game, look for your finishers. Genesis Ultimatum, which gets a bunch of free permanents off the top, Apex Devastator, which gets lots of crazy stuff off the top generally, and Temur Ascendancy will help us get there in battle, giving all of our creatures haste. Last but not least, deck number 20 was one I have always wanted to build. This one is led by KERANOS, God of Storms. It's a red-blue deck that looks to cast and copy tons of spells and win through a combo or storming off. Early game, look for your cheap spell payoffs like Goblin Electromancer, Wavebreak Hippocamp, and Gutter Snipe. Goblin Electromancer serving as a spell discounter, Hippocamp and Gutter Snipe doing damage and getting some cards. Middle of the game, look to control the board and draw even more cards. The Locust God, Magus of the Wheel, and Windfall can give us access to more of our deck. Storm's Wrath, Mizium Mortars, and even KERANOS himself can help us keep the board at bay to give us some time to find our pieces. Late in the game, we can look for a few different ways to win. Dualcaster Mage and Twin Flame gives us infinite tokens for combat, Niv Mizzet and Curiosity draws our deck and burns our opponents for that much, or we can chain together enough cheap spells to storm off and use Grape Shot and some copies to burn out our opponents and win the game. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, go ahead and leave a like. Go ahead and comment which deck was your favorite out of these 10. All deck lists will be in the description on Moxfield. You can see both these 10 and the previous 10 because those are the only 20 I've done so far. The next up through 100 will be released as those videos go up. And that's really all I've got. So I hope you did enjoy. Consider subscribing if you want to see more Magic videos. If not, that's totally cool. I can't tell you what to do. But anyways, that'll do it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.
Open up the curtain. Oh my! Pandemonium is showtime. Got the noses up, I know why.